In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we have observed this star in its rising, and we have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them, "Where is the Messiah? Where was he to be born?" They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophets. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judea and Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd the people of Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they heard the king, they set out. And there, ahead of them, went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over a place where the child was. When they saw the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. The Christmas story, the experience, truly has a deep inner meaning. I read a story that we all know about Herod, about the wise men, about the gifts. And I'm going to share more this week on Facebook about other metaphors and interpretations of an understanding of Christmas symbols and historical people and places. Because we don't read the Bible like we read a newspaper. We don't teach the Bible the way we would teach history. We believe the Bible is one of many sacred scriptures that illustrate personal revelation, and a revelation that has relevance in our life today. What we do is we look for archetypal symbols like kings and gifts and treasures, and we realize they represent an inner process going on inside us. That in all cultures and all times, throughout all of history, there are these archetypal symbols that show up in lives of every man, woman, and child who has lived and ever will live. Today I read about wise men who come from the East. And these wise men, they represent the true thoughts of a higher power inside of ourselves. We know they are led by a star to a place where Jesus the Christ is born. And upon arriving, they open up treasure chests and they bring gifts. You know, many times in us, these higher thoughts show up with treasure chests filled with gifts. They just come and they go, and we fail to notice. We, in our own day-to-day experiences, get these metaphorical visits from wise men every day of our life. Each of us in every day has God lying in the manger of our awareness, of our consciousness, of our experiences, of our relationships. And all we need to do is listen sometimes. And the light that is God will guide us. And so I ask, what is being born in each of us today? What is being born in your life right now? Can you realize how big and how grand the dreams and the ideas and the passions and the gift that God has given you really are? Do you realize how great the calling is on each of our hearts to turn our world around with one God-ordained idea? And so the question I have is, if we realize that God has ordained and given us gifts, if we realize that we are blessed, if we realize that we have health, that we have talents, and if we realize that every one of us has a mission so grand and so great from gifts that are so profound, what holds us back from total fulfillment? If we believe in prayer, and I know everyone in this room does, and we believe in a higher power, and I know everyone here does, and we recognize the light that is Spirit guides our every step in life, and I'm sure that we do, what holds us back from total unconditional fulfillment? Well, the story I read provides some insight today. In the story, we know that King Herod wants to sabotage the Christ idea, the birth of the Christ. The king realizes that he does not want to lose power. You see, Herod wants to use the wise men to guide him to where the Christ is born so that he can kill the God idea. He represents Herod, a part of us. He represents that personal ego, that small self inside of us. Historically, Herod was a king who was paranoid about losing power. And truthfully, psychologically, that's how our ego works. The ego in us wants to take control. It wants to keep our life safe. It wants to keep us small. The ego in us is that little voice that tells us, don't bother. Don't bother trying, it won't work out. Don't bother going for that degree, you'll never get it. Don't bother asking him or her out, they won't like you. Don't go for that job, you're not qualified, they won't hire you anyway. These are not God ideas, and they don't come from the Spirit. These are these small egoic ideas that want to keep us small, keep us from taking the chance, keep us secure in the status quo. But one thing we know about Spirit in our life is Spirit wants to stretch us. Each one of us have dreams and passions and talents and gifts, and these wise men or these higher ideas in our mind, they are not fooled by Herod in the story. They're not deceived by the small self, the personal ego. What we see in the story is they deliver their gifts and they don't let Herod sidetrack them. See, too many times in our life, we do let our ego sidetrack us. We do let our fears sidetrack us. We do let a loss of control sidetrack us from the greatest dream that God may be placing in our path. And all we need to do is let go and let God, and everything would fall into place. But if you understand this prayer, it's first we let go before we can let God.